Hey, Chuck.
Hey, hi.
Hey, man. It's good to see you. I'm really glad you could be here. You could be on the Bear Facts show. This is, as you know, a show about cats that I've played music with over the years and enjoy hanging with. And I am so delighted and excited to have you as a guest here. Everybody, this is Chuck Lorre, who is a incredible musician, as well as a producer, writer, director of some of the biggest shows on TV. But we're going to talk more about music than about TV, if that's okay with you, Chuck, for a while. I know that you were born in New York City.
Yeah.
Okay, in New York, and you went to you graduated high school, went to school in Potsdam. Do you remember the college you went to?
SUNY Potsdam, State University of New York at Potsdam. I went there in 1970, and I went there for two reasons.
Okay.
I was of draft age, and
All right.
I looked at a map of New York, and Potsdam was in running distance to Canada. So I went, that's where I'm going to college. That was the best my 17-year-old brain could come up with, was let's go somewhere where if we have to run,
we can get across the border. Yeah. Okay. And I remember the draft. I remember they were giving out numbers in a lottery.
that was a little later. Yeah, the lottery came out later.
Yeah.
The moment I hit that lottery with a high number, which meant I wouldn't be drafted, I was in the wind.
Yeah, I
packed the car and I was gone.
Same with me. I think my number was something like 327 or something.
Yeah.
And in that case, I would only be drafted in case of an attack by European sea reptiles. So
Right.
I was pretty good on that. You stayed in college for 2 years, then you bolted, right?
Yeah.
And then you decided music was your life. And
I went to California. I had a Strat, a 64 Strat, a twin reverb, which was piercing. It's a wonder that there's any hearing left. A boomerang wah-wah pedal and a 64 Mustang. And $400. And I drove to Los Angeles to pursue a career that I had no business pursuing at that point. But I was, I was determined.
did you ever stop along the way and play a gig or try?
I drove like I was being chased by ghosts. I drove across the country, just bat out of hell. Let me get there. Let me get started. Let me find a gig. Let me get my footing. Let me start this career that I imagined at, when I was 19.
Okay, so you wind up in California. You wind up in Los Angeles, right?
Sleeping on a friend's floor.
All right, you've camped out. How do you start a music career at 19 from New York, from a Jewish family like me?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do?
There were bulletin boards, actual bulletin boards, not virtual bulletin boards, in music stores,
Right.
Equipment stores,
Okay.
guitar stores, and also at the musicians union,
Yeah.
where you could look for, wanted guitarist wanted kind of
Right.
things, and go audition. I lucked out, and I went and auditioned for a traveling show band, which was the kind of band that went from Ramada Inn to Hilton and just traveled across the country playing in the bars and hotels.
Okay.
One of those bands with uniforms,
Yeah,
where you
absolutely.
had to wear that
Yeah.
ugly damn uniform, with tassels. We had one uniform that had a cape. It was absolutely
You
ridiculous.
had, wait a minute, you dressed in a cape?
The lead singer who was the lead singer who was the lead singer who was the wife of the bass player designed the clothing, and he was also our clothing designer. So you had to wear it.
Yeah,
You had to wear the uniform. And coming from the bands I'd been in prior to that, where you just showed up, and
exactly.
you just showed up. There was no such thing as creating an appearance. But it was a gig, and we drove around the country, from Colorado to Columbus, Ohio, and all point, just 3 weeks here, 4 weeks here, 2 weeks here, just bouncing around playing top 40 covers and
On your Strat
on the Strat and
with the twin reverb.
the twin reverb and staying in the cheapest. Sometimes they would put you up, in the hotel, and sometimes you had to get your own place.
Right.
I remember, I think it was in Colorado. It might have been Nebraska. Staying in those cement teepees. Remember those?
Okay.
The motels that were
Right,
cement.
right, right, right.
It was actually it was a circular room inside just
I do remember those.
cement teepee. I still remember it was $6 a night, and I thought maybe I'll live here forever. Or it was $6 a week or whatever it was. It was ridiculously cheap, and it had a little black and white TV in there, and I thought, this is great. I can just camp here for a while.
Cement teepee, motel room, black and white TV, probably those magic fingers on the bed with the coin.
25 cents.
25 cents. Yeah, right.
Gosh, yeah.
Oh my God, I do remember that shit. So you played in show bands, and then what happened? I mean, I want to get get you back to LA.
Through a series of calamitous events, I wound up in Miami, and this is
most Jews do.
Well, when you're ready to meet God, yeah. I'm still 21 years old, and there was a lot of work there.
Right.
There was between the hotels on the beach. I worked on a cruise ship for quite some time. So there was if you had a Jew's harp, you could get a gig. I mean, there was so much work. There were so many private parties and nightclubs and up and down the beach and around Miami proper. It was a great place to take some time and start thinking about what to do with this.
When we were in our 20s, that was a good time to actually be in Miami, because
it was happening.
It was smoking hot. I mean, Criteria Studios were
Criteria. Yeah, I never got near that. I was a journeyman musician playing in clubs. But one of the nice things that happened was I remember I got this gig with a band. I was playing at a club called The Forge on Arthur Godfrey Road, and there was a Cuban piano.
I remember The Forge. You're right.
Remember The Forge?
Yeah, it still may be there.
It was owned by those guys.
Yeah, those guys, right?
Those guys, because there were Rembrandts on the wall and stuff. It was some crazy stuff. But the piano player was this guy who'd emigrated from Cuba, and by emigrated back then, it meant he swam. I mean, he got in a bucket and paddled.
Right.
But the level of musicianship, I had never seen a level of musicianship like this guy. I think the drummer might have been Cuban as well. They were classically trained musicians, and I had never seen this before. I'd been playing with guys who grew up putting the needle down on a Rolling Stones record and doing the best we could.
Sure.
These guys were classically trained, had incredible ears, and he had me learning Spain, Chick Corea's Spain, and and Sir Duke and things like that, Stevie Wonder, and so it was a great opportunity. I had to step up and become.
Well, these guys were the exiles from the Buena Vista social clubs.
Yeah.
In Havana.
Yeah.
These guys came across, they had been playing amazing careers in Cuba, and then they came across, and there are some astounding musicians in Cuba.
Yeah.
I just watched Buena Vista Social Club the other night, and I got so inspired again by the vibe and by their abilities to write songs with such lyrical and such romanticism. It's incredible.
It was a great experience. I also around the same time I was doing an afternoon gig in a coffee shop playing acoustic guitar,
Right.
and this guy came in and was listening to me, and he said, I teach jazz guitar at the University of Miami. You know, you're pretty good. Why don't you come in and audit the course, hang out, you know? And I was like, yeah, great, sure. You know, and I'm in the back of this class, and these kids are, you know, have these big L5 jazz guitars that they're,
Sure.
and I'm in the back with this beat up Strat and thinking I'm all that because I'm a working musician. I'm not a, you know, and I was really full of myself, you know, because you know, I knew how to play whipping post, you know.
Right.
These guys were transposing Joe Pass solos, you know.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I was in denial about that because that was way above my pay grade. But one night I was sitting in the back of that classroom, and he says, I want to bring in somebody to play for us tonight and talk about music and whatnot. And he's going to kind of a guest professor that here at the University of Miami. And come on in. Everybody say hello to Pat Metheny. And Pat was 16. He was 16 years old. And, you know, he's kind of looking down at his shoes and not really making eye contact with anybody. He was a kid.
Right.
You know, the guitar seemed to dominate him physically. And I'm sitting in the back going, what's happening here? And he starts playing.
And that's what was happening there.
And I remember it changed my life because I watched him play. I couldn't do what he was doing. I didn't understand what he was doing. I don't know how he got there.
Right.
But as those thoughts are rummaging around in my head, I'm thinking, you better learn to write because you ain't never going to be a player, right?
But I got to tell everybody that's listening to this, I play with Chuck. He comes and sits in with the band, the Route 66 band often. And I think I've done, let's see, we did the Claire Foundation benefit with you, and you played on that date that you put on. And folks, no flies on the kid here. He plays his ass off. Okay, Chuck plays his ass off. So by him saying that, that's pretty incredible.
We all know, if you're listening to watching this, we all know what kind of where a guy like Metheny is at 16. You got to remember, he was 16 years old. Yeah. I mean, he was a baby, and that was around the same time I wandered into a concert. There's no reason to be cute about this. Just tripping my ass off. Right?
That's fine.
And the warm-up act at this concert, it was Edgar Winter's White Trash. Actually, Edgar was the headliner, but the warm-up was John McLaughlin and the Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Oh my God!
And again, I'm sitting there on the floor in this auditorium, going, "What's happening?" If he's playing guitar, what the fuck am I doing? Because it's not the same thing. These are two very different things. He is doing stuff. With the violin? Was it Jerry Goodman, the violin player?
Yeah,
I remember the name.
Yeah,
you know, they were playing stuff. I still remember, you know, just thinking, I need to redirect my energies if this is my career, because I could formulate the one coherent thought, which is Bob Dylan can't do that either.
That's true.
You know?
Now, University of Miami.
Neil Young's not going to sit in with Pat Metheny. Not going to
No.
happen. So
Never.
So I need to compartmentalize. Not that I could be anywhere remotely in that category of the Dylans and the Neil Youngs, but I understood that their careers are premised on their songwriting, not their execution.
Right.
No one called Bob Dylan a great singer, right? But
the guy could write a song.
The guy could write a song,
Right.
and there were levels of participation in this world that I had to start, recognizing in order to keep going forward and not just throw in the towel and say, okay, I'm a real estate agent.
One of the guests on my show, and a buddy of mine, is Edgar Winter, who played on my album.
I got to play with Edgar at that Labor Day picnic thing,
Right.
that Denny Seiwell had.
Denny
It was brilliant.
I know. He's
sharing riffs with him on that the soprano.
He's an unbelievable musician.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah. And the other guest that we just recently on, who did last week's video log with me, is Will Lee. Do you know Will Lee, the bass player? Will was on the Letterman. He was in the Letterman band for 30 years. And his father, the reason I'm bringing him up is his father was the professor of music at University of Miami. William Lee, who ran the music school there. I don't know if he was probably there when you were there.
He probably was.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, like when I coming up, when I would listen to Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, I was, in the same boat as you. I mean, I could play the blues, I could play some R&B, rock and roll was real simple, but the shit that they were putting down and the time signatures that they were putting them in made me want to go out and write songs. Yeah. And that's the God's honest truth. Yeah, I'm going to have to sing and write songs here for me to go anywhere.
You certainly do that extremely well.
Oh, thank you so much. Let me turn this phone off, this ringing here. Okay. Let's get rid of this. Okay, turned off. Anyway, so let's talk about your songwriting after that. So you just started to write some songs, right? I want to ask you about a song that Deborah Harry covered of yours that was a big hit and actually was top 10 in England. French Kissing in the USA. How'd you come up with that one?
That just came about, looking on, sitting down. I still have a Gibson Dove that was my what I would write on.
Right.
It was what I would work on, and it also I love that guitar. I still have it all these years later. But prior to the Debbie Harry song, I even in high school, my senior year in high school, 69, 70, going into the 70s, I became infatuated with Randy Newman.
Oh.
The 12 songs and Sail Away and the early albums were striking to me because I had never heard songs with changing perspectives.
Sure.
He would sing. He would take the voice of the bad guy and sing from that voice.
Right.
He would.
Political science is one of them.
But yeah, political science. Boom goes London, boom Paris. More room for you, more room for me. Every city, the whole world around will just be.
We'll save
American.
We'll save Australia. Don't want to hurt no kangaroo.
They got surfing there. They got surfing too. Yeah. So anyway, I as a lyricist, he's writing beautiful music as well.
Sure.
But he wasn't saying come dance with me. He wasn't singing I love you.
Not in the least.
He was singing about things that I didn't know you could do. And that really that changed everything for me. I actually decided I want to be Randy Newman with a Stratocaster. I want to write songs that are perverse and odd and have a sense of humor about them and tell a story. I don't want to write boogie, oogie, oogie till you just can't boogie no more. I just didn't have that. I didn't mean anything, you know. And as it turned out, I couldn't do what Randy does either. I mean, that was also above my pay grade. But it started to get me thinking about the writing with a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
Songs that had an arc, songs
Right.
that had someone speaking. The song had a
Well,
narrative.
the interesting thing about songwriting to me has always been that you've got to tell your story in 3 minutes.
And yes, that's exactly right. The greatest lesson I learned, and I probably over the course of 10, 12 years before maybe even 15 before I stumbled into television, I probably wrote 400 or 500 songs. I made it a promise to myself, if I'm going to call myself a songwriter,
right,
then I have to write songs.
right.
I can't think about it. I can't go maybe tomorrow. I'm not in the mood.
Right.
So I would I set myself a goal. I think it was like I had one song had to be written at least in a week. I had to at least have the elements of a song in otherwise what am I doing? I'm pretending to be something.
Right.
So I wrote a lot of bad songs. I still have all the loose leaf books and the spiral note case books with handwritten lyrics and
I want to see them
some bad stuff.
No, I gotta really see them one day. You gotta have me over to.
When the guy writes, "You're my sweet thing, but you don't send me to the dentist," you know he's in trouble. I was searching for a voice that, I also, you probably remember this too. By extension from Randy Newman, I fell in love with bands like the Tubes.
Oh yeah.
Don't touch me there. When our zippers were up together, throwing sparks into the night. Again, White Punks on Dope and things like that. I love that. I love that music was capable of having a sense of humor, and the Beatles could do that on occasion too.
Oh, very, very much so.
Really funny, and so that was. I started writing more and more songs that I thought if I stepped in front of an audience and I would do this stuff with an acoustic guitar and play in little bars and coffee shops and writing songs with the express purpose of trying to make the audience laugh. And if they laughed, I was on the right track. If they didn't laugh, I kept working on it. Right? Okay. So what happened was around 1976. I auditioned to be in a band led by Spike Jones Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the son of Spike Jones.
Spike Jones, yeah.
And he did an act. He did a nightclub act based on his father's repertoire. Chloe and Cocktails for Two, Saber Dance, things like that. And Spike played a 2.5 octave set of tuned cowbells, and with like 5 or 6 electric car horns that were tuned.
Right, more cowbell, more cowbell.
And he had a starter pistol that he would shoot, on bomb, 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 and so it was pretty sophisticated music. That stuff was, the Saber Dance was done at 100 million miles an hour. I mean, it was.
See, I used to love Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa, same way, but very difficult compositions.
Incredibly hard stuff.
Really complex stuff.
Yeah.
And Spike Sr.'s music, which was probably written in the 40s,
sure.
50s, was big band music.
Yeah.
It was big band music and generally hypermanic pace. You had to be a player.
Yes, you did.
And I auditioned, and most of that stuff was out of my reach. I couldn't do it. But I played my original stuff for Spike Jr., and he said, "Oh, we can use this. This is," he liked the original stuff because I was doing comedy songs.
Right.
And he gave me the opportunity, which looking back on it was really, he said, "Go woodshed this stuff and come back in a couple of weeks. And if you can play it, you're in the band.
Wow.
You know, so I spent a couple of weeks, learning how to, play saber dance, play cocktails for two, and eventually I was able to gargle the solo for saber dance, which, was in the original recording, a gargling solo. I can still do that, but I'm not going to do it now.
I dare you. I double dare you.
I played with Spike for about 4 or 5 years. When we tried to take his father's idea and bring it into the modern era, we had a show called Rock Casualties, which was spoofing pop music at the time.
Right.
And then we played around. We played the different clubs in town. We played the Troubadour and things like that. And then I went off on my own. And again, I wrote a 1 hour rock comedy show called The Ministry of Rock and Roll. I wore a Roman collar with a dark suit, and we did. Some of the songs were straight up rock and roll songs but I also would do sketches in between them. I'd bring a woman out of the audience, and with the help of the audience and my healing powers, I would make her a virgin again. A guy would come up that I had planted in the audience would come up. A blind guy would come up on crutches, and we'd do this spiritual healing thing, and he'd throw the crutches away, and I can walk. Oh, and then I did it wrong. He was on crutches, and we'd heal him. He'd throw the crutches away, and then he'd stop. The music would stop because we'd have the music vamping underneath. Music would stop, and he'd look and he'd go, "I can't see a fucking thing." and it was all done with with this up tempo gospel thing underneath, a song called "Save Yourself." And so
that's fucking great.
We played around town. We played the Troubadour and the Whiskey and Madame Wong's. You remember?
I remember Wong, sure.
Club 88 and things like that, and couldn't get arrested.
Lingerie?
No, I don't remember Lingerie.
Club Lingerie, yeah.
I just remember nobody gave a shit. Nobody was thinking that the next thing that was going to happen in music was funny stuff. It was not happening. It was a long, hard climb to nowhere, but it was a good experience. I gained more confidence.
But all this stuff is kind of, I guess you could say, prepared you for what came next.
Eventually learning how to write in a linear form on a piece of paper, to tell a story.
Right.
Yeah, and to be concise. And songwriting, in pop songwriting, there's nothing more. There's no fat on a good song. There's nothing extraneous. There's no. The
two guys that taught me how to write more than any, you touched on one, which was Randy Newman. Mm-hmm. The second guy was John Prine.
Uh-huh.
John Prine. I saw John Prine at an open mic night in 1971.
Wow. And
he sang a couple of songs. One was Angel from Montgomery, and the second one was Hello in There. And then I think they made him do another one, which was Sam Stone. And I never heard songwriting like that in my life. Mm. And then I tried to start writing songs. And I remember I came out to LA and went to the Universal lot and went to a publisher there who was going to hire me as a staff songwriter. And he sat me down and he says, he listened to my stuff, and he sat me down and he says, well, Richard, the first thing I'm going to tell you is don't bore us, get to the chorus. So, I went, okay.
I
get it.
Here's something I don't think you talked about things that somebody might not know about me.
Yeah. Okay. That's the thing. Tell us something that nobody knows about you, Chuck.
When I think it was, where was it? It was probably on after the Miami excursion, I came back to LA. I was not going to quit on this dream I had, and I had all my Randy Newman albums.
Okay.
And it was, and on the bottom it said Warner Brothers Records, Burbank, California.
Right.
So as a testament to how clever a young man I was, I went there. I went to Warner Brothers Records, went into the lobby and walked up to the receptionist and said, "Hello, I'd like to talk to Randy Newman." And the woman looked at me like, this young man is too stupid to breathe and walk, and said, very courteously, she said, "He's not here." And I went, "Well, where can I find him?" And she said, "Well, not here."
Well, not here.
So I said, "Well, is there someone I can contact?" And she gave me the number of his agent, his lawyer, manager, and I then called them.
Right.
And I left messages and saying, "I'd like to speak with Randy Newman."
Right.
Or I'd like to speak with Randy Newman. It's regard, or if I'd get, the secretary saying, "What is this regarding?" My answer was always, "He'll know."
That's a great line. I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah, that's the way to blow past when you're cold calling somebody and you want to get them on the phone, and you get, what is this record? What is this involved?
He'll know.
He'll know. And I left messages everywhere, and a couple of weeks went by, and I got a call one morning. I pick up the phone. I was living in a garage off of Wilshire. I was sharing a garage off of Wilshire. I didn't have
You didn't have sole proprietorship of the garage.
No, and I didn't have the
garage. You had to stay within the lines of the two cars, right?
I had the bad part of the garage. I was sharing it with a sax player, and the phone rang, and I picked up the phone. He said, "Is this Chuck Lorre?" And I went, "Yeah, who's this?" And he goes, "It's Randy Newman." I went, "You shitting me? Who is this?" Actually, I actually think this is before Miami. This was earlier in the 70s. So it was just Sail Away and 12 songs.
Right.
And he had maybe the one record with Three Dog Night. Mama Told Me Not to Come.
Told me not to come, yeah.
And he said, "You left messages for me everywhere, and no one ever calls me." So I was kind of wondering what you wanted. And I went, "Oh," I was totally unprepared for this call. And I went, I'm a big fan. Your songwriting, and I'm trying to get a break as a songwriter. And I was hoping maybe you could point me in the right, and he goes, "Man, I can't help myself." I don't know how I can help you. Right. And
have you met him since?
I actually ran into him maybe 20 years later at a Writers Guild strike, walking around in circles around CBS complex. He was a co-writer on the Three Amigos, so he was in the Writers Guild, and they told him to come picket. So I said, "What are you doing here?" And he went. They told me to come walk around in a circle with a sign, so I came. But he was nice enough in that phone call back in the 70s to give me the number of his manager. Right, and I called the manager. And again, I had no shame. I had no real perspective on how raw I was. And I didn't really have the chops that I thought I did. Anyway, the guy said, "Come on in." They arranged an appointment for me to come meet the manager, Randy Newman. And I walked in there with that Dove and started playing him my songs. He went, you don't have a tape or anything? You don't have anything?" "No, I'm going to play them for you." I made this guy sit in his office and listen to me play 3 or 4 of my songs. And when I was done, he went, "They sound like somebody I know." And he goes, "You're clearly very, you're clearly being molded by Randy Newman, and you're sounding like Randy Newman,
right.
And your songs are kind of in that thing. But here's the thing: I already have Randy Newman."
Right.
And I said, I get it. I get it. Okay. Well, I'm going to grow. I can, I can
Yeah, this is
manage me,
the start, right?
help my career. And, and we'll, he goes, and here's where I'll never forget this. He went, I'm a little busy right now. I got this young guy. I think he's going to be big, and I'm giving it all my attention. And I went, who's the guy? And he goes, guy's name is Jim Croce. And that meant nothing to me. It was before, all of the Croce incredible hits and stuff like that. I remember leaving his office feeling dejected, going, fuck Jim Croce. Who the fuck is Jim Croce?
Jim Croce.
And then, a few months later, Jim Croce was one great record after another. I kind of feel like I was an early adapter to Jim Croce, because this manager was savvy enough to understand a great singer-songwriter when he saw one, and it wasn't me. It was Jim Croce.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because, aside from French Kissing in the USA for Deborah Harry, which you wrote, let's talk about a little thing called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
It's not so. Well,
that might be the most financially successful song that I've ever come across for a writer.
It was my first break in writing for television came for children's programming.
Okay.
Writing for the Muppet Babies, Heathcliff the Cat, and the Transformers, and
right,
like whatever. And it was the Wild West. It was you write a script, they pay you, and you're out. There was no Writers Guild, there were no residuals, there was no health insurance, there was no nothing. But it was a huge step up from playing the Big Daddy's Lounge in Long Beach. It was guaranteed way to support my family. It was a guaranteed way to make a living. And I grabbed onto it with both hands when I realized that I could do it. I mean, I just faked my way in when I got the first opportunity to do it. I just lied. I can do this. I got it. I ran out and got books on how to write a script. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't know what anything. I just fake it till you make it. And but I did recognize that there was an opportunity in that world of animation. Music was wall to wall on animation. If you ever watch animation, the music is wall to wall. It's how a guy like Chaim Saban became a billionaire, by putting wall-to-wall music on thousands of half hours of television. And I saw that was an enormous opportunity to make a living,
right?
To crawl out of the poverty
garage,
the garage.
Right.
And I had kids at that time, so it was important. It was important to put protein on the table. Sure. It was fine and dandy to be a broke ass musician without kids. It was not okay with kids. It was just not acceptable. My first shot at that was to write the scripts. This company called Murakami Wolf, a wonderful man named Fred Wolf, somewhere got the financing to do a 6-episode test run of the Turtles, based on what was then a black and white comic. It was a homegrown comic book. The guys that created it, Eastman and Laird, I think, they printed it themselves. They created, wrote it, underground comic. There was no main distributor or anything like that. And it kind of slowly catching on. And Fred called me because I had started to get a bit of a reputation as capable of writing scripts, to write the 6 episodes, but I was under contract at Marvel to write for Marvel Television. I got to work with Stan Lee for a couple of years as a result. But I said, my contract doesn't cover music. I'll do the music. Let me do the music. Let me do the music. Come on, let me do the music. And he said, no, that's too bad. But we got the Turtles to do the music for the Turtles for the show. We got
Flo and Eddie.
Flo and Eddie. And I went, oh, okay, that's clever. But all right, fine, never mind. And then many months later, he calls me out of the blue and says, they didn't deliver. They just blew it off. They were, probably, looked at it and went, this is ridiculous. Why are we wasting a minute of time? They may have sent
Maybe the biggest financial mistake they ever made in their lives.
whatever, it was a gift to me. He said they didn't deliver, or maybe they delivered something that was unusable. I don't really recall the details. He said, can you come up with something? You have about 2 weeks, right? And I was working with, and I still work with a wonderful guitar player named Dennis Brown. And Dennis is the one who got me introduced me to Spike Jones, actually, back in the 70s.
Right.
And I called Dennis. I said, we got a shot at a theme song and score for this 6-episode thing called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so we read the comic books and we dove into it. We watched whatever animation was available to watch at that point. And we wrote that song in an afternoon,
Little did you know.
Did we know, using that descending major chord thing that I learned from Stevie Wonder,
Right.
B flat A flat G, they're the world's most fearsome fighting team. I would never have dreamed of doing that chord progression had I not seen Stevie Wonder do it in, I don't know, it was one of those great 70s albums where the chord progressions that I'd never heard of they made sense.
Right.
When he played him. I absolutely said, you can do that. You can go from the third to the major second to the flat second to the tonic and sing over it. And
Right.
that's how we built that song. And the song just kept on going for now 34, 35 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we recorded it in a studio. He gave us $2,500 to record the demo. Which then became the theme. He said the demo was fine. I have no time. Don't bother remastering it. So the voices on the voices of the turtles were me sped up. That was me doing all the turtle voices on the.
You did the voices?
I did the voices, and we sped up. And I said, Fred, you'll probably want to get the actors to come in.
Who was your favorite turtle?
Oh my goodness, I didn't give a shit. But we went into a studio from 12 midnight to 8 a.m. You know that block, that booking
I
to
do.
get that cheap time.
Right.
And the equipment, I still remember the equipment all around the studio was belonged to Journey. Journey was in there recording one of their many platinum albums. And we were there at 4 o'clock in the morning singing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'll tell you what, it made more dough than their albums. I can tell you that.
There was a footnote to that a few years into that, and it was a phenomenon. It became there are points where they were just ordering episodes in bookings of 50, 60 episodes at a time. They couldn't make them fast enough. It was on the network. It was in syndication. It was the American movies. They kept us out of the movies because they thought that they wanted the movies to be a little more elegant than what we were. Broke my heart. But at one point we were called in, Dennis and I, to this office in Century City, and a bunch of guys in suits said, we're not going to pay you for the music, for your music when it's on video games or arcade games or video cassettes.
Ooh.
And I said, remember Nintendo and all those things they were selling.
I
right?
Believe me, my kids,
Right.
Nintendos.
And I had the wherewithal. We had no lawyer. We were total two idiots. I said, why? And the guy said, and I'm not quoting it exactly, he said something like, we don't want to. And if you want to make a case out of this, we'll scrape the music you have off of all the episodes that already exist, and we'll put something else there, which was a bluff. But it worked. We signed away the rights to all the video games, all the video cassettes, in perpetuity, in order to just keep a handle on the TV rights, which was quite wonderful. But it was a lesson in brute force.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, that happened, because I was just figuring on all the video and all the, all the electronic games and all.
We just were able to cling to the TV play, the BMI of it all.
Right.
The airplay stuff, all that other ancillary stuff. They said, yeah, no, not you.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're running out of time, but I want to just let everybody know about what you've been involved in over these years, because it's such a body of work, and I'm going to bring it up here now. You started with Franny's Turn, went to Grace Under Fire, Sybil, Dharma and Greg, 2.5 Men, The Big Bang Theory, Mom, Young Sheldon, The Kaminsky Method. You have something now out right now, new.
Yeah, just started this past Thursday night, called The United States of Al.
Okay.
And about an Afghan interpreter coming and living with his Marine buddy in Ohio.
Okay.
There's another show on CBS called Be Positive.
Be Positive, right? That's great.
And a relationship.
Everyone should watch that one. That one's great. That one's great.
Fun, comedy in a dialysis room.
Yeah.
And what else? Yeah, I've been.
You're working all the time. Can we give a special shout out to your wife right now?
Sure.
Yeah, I want to thank her because she helped get him over here. See, this guy over here, his wife said, Chuck, come on, talk about your music. It's what you love. Let's give her podcast a shout out. Tell us about that.
Blonde Files. It's really terrific. She speaks with doctors and people that are, and writers who are working, on the cutting edge of health and well-being, and it's really been quite remarkable. It's an intense thing because they're constantly in production. There's no break. Television, you work in television, you go home, and then you have a moment to decompress and step back. This never stops. The Instagram and the social influencing and the podcasting, and it's a relentless machine. But yeah, she's doing great. She's killing it.
Tell everybody her name and what the show is called.
Ariel Laurie, and the show is called The Blonde Files.
All right, everybody, check out The Blonde Files.
She got me to do it about a week ago or so, and I went, well, if I'm doing you, I gotta, then that's it. I should do something that I actually give a shit about. Let's talk music with T-Bear.
Hey man, we had a lot of fun today. I really enjoyed that journey that you took me on about how you get there. You still have that Strat, that 64 Strat?
Well, I wish I had it right here. Yeah, it looks like it's been on fire. It's got some miles on it, but yeah, I still have it.
Well, we're coming out of the COVID thing, and it's been a crazy rough year. But I want to tell you that, in the time that I have been laying in the house for a year, I've written 2 albums.
Wow.
And a 18-minute piece of music that I want to make into an animation. Mm-hmm. That I'm real happy about. I'm thrilled to say that my album's coming out in a few days. And that's been years in the making, and I'm really glad about that. But we're going to start playing live again, apparently, in June 27th. The Canyon Club in Agora has booked us in there, so hopefully we're going to be playing there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's a fantastic thing for all of us musicians that have been without a gig for a long time, and it's been really hard on all of us, as well as your industry. And I can't wait for you and I to get on stage again together and lay down all those Southern rock hits that we do and have a lot of fun. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for being a friend of mine. And and thank your wife again for helping with this. And everybody say goodbye to Chuck. He's got a lot to do and a short amount of time to do it in. So
Thanks, T-Bear.
have a great year. Stay healthy. Stay safe. We love you.
Thanks, pal.
Goodbye, everybody. I'm going to
Bye.
turn off the recording now.
All right.